NewBiz Startup Summit and Awards 2023. Nomination from 7 provinces. Connecting with 2,000 plus startup participants. Awards categories more than 4. Powered by Sostwadeal.com. Banking partner Lakshmi Bank. General Insurance partner Shikhar Insurance. Technology partner Rigo Technologies. Remittance partner City Express Money Transfer. Driven by Nexon EV Max. Community partner Nepali Patro. Internet partner Dish Home FiberNet. Supported by National Life Insurance, Nepal Rashtra Bank, Citizen Life Insurance, FNCCI, Nepal Insurance Authority, Alpha Plus Ventures. Organized by New Business Age.
May I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Tim Gonsar, OVE, founder and CEO at Dolma Fund Management, for his remarks on the theme, How Nepal Can Win in the Global Startup Race. Mr. Tim is founder and CEO of Dolma Fund Management, which manages Dolma Impact Fund 1 and 2, the largest international private equity fund dedicated to Nepal. Tim is also the founder and chairman of the non-profit Dolma Foundation, which provides scholarship to underprivileged children in Nepal. Before Dolma, Tim worked at Deloitte Corporate Finance in London, JP Morgan in New York, and energy giant EON as an entrepreneur. He has started and sold 2 successful technology business. अब म आफ्नो remarks का लागि, may I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Tim Gonsar, OVE, founder and CEO at Dolma Fund Management.
Ladies and gentlemen, I love these events. The Nepali business community is really a small community and a tight-knit community where people support each other. I'll give you an example. On Friday last week, I was at a party. And to show just how small this world is, I was sitting at a table at dinner and I was sitting next to the IMF chief for the country, and we were solving the problems of the world, the macro economy. And this man sits down next to me. I could see him out of the corner of my eye. He puts down his plate of food. In the end, that conversation finished. I turned round and the man said, hello, and he introduced himself, but I didn't quite hear him. He had quite a soft voice and there was noise. And I said, yes, I'm from Dolma Impact Fund. And he said, that's funny. He said, next Friday, somebody from Dolma Impact Fund is speaking at my event. And I said, who is that? He said, a man called Tim. I said, I'm Tim. That man was Madan Lamsal. And by the way, the conversation we had was much more interesting than solving the world's macroeconomic problems. So I tore up my speech today after hearing Amun Tapa. And I decided to talk about my journey because I might look like one of those guys from the World Bank that flies in and tells the government and the private sector how to operate, but I'm not one of those people. I'm an entrepreneur. Dolma Impact Fund, Dolma Fund Management was, and I think still is, a startup. So let me tell you a bit about my journey. In 2011, I left the world of Singapore investment banking, and I decided to start the first private equity fund for Nepal. And just like Amun said, people said I was crazy. There were lots of people coming through Nepal saying, we're going to invest, we're going to do it. And we went through hell. I went through hell financially, right? I had just the money in my bank, just my savings. I had to carry a team for 3 years. We did then get some help from DFID, now FCDO, but not all help. They certainly didn't pay all the expenses. And I stood up in the Nepal embassy in London and I gave a speech about how we were launching this new fund. And people did come up to me and say, is there a private equity ecosystem in Nepal? And I said, as Amun said, nope, but there will be, and we're going to make one. Now that was 12 years ago. And if you now fast forward, I believe we do have a private equity ecosystem. As you saw, Dolma Impact Fund now manages over $100 million for Nepal alone. And we do have an ecosystem. There were early entries into the private equity market, BO2, True North Associates, Team Ventures, IME, others that have been investing for some time. But recently that market expanded dramatically when Sabon issued new licenses for the new alternative investment funds. And now we're seeing a lot more collaboration in the market. And I have to say that's thanks to the gentleman sitting in front of me, the chairman of Sabon, who, because of his reforms and the speed with which he's processed some of the applications that were sitting on his desk, we now have that ecosystem. The stock exchange reforms enabled Dolma to list its first 2 companies successfully on the Nepal Stock Exchange. And all of this, the easier it is for companies to list on the exchange, the more foreign investment or investment that's going to come in to businesses. So I know he's going to speak after me, but I think we should all be very grateful for his work and his presence here. The world is in an economic downturn. Interest rates are up globally, not just here. Inflation is up. There's terrible problems in the world. I don't see an ounce of that feeling of doom and gloom in this room. I feel the optimism of entrepreneurs. And it's entrepreneurs that think differently. When everybody's telling you that's impossible, how are you going to create an e-commerce industry when hardly anyone's on the internet? How are you going to persuade investors to invest in Nepal when nobody's done it before? But it's just the fact that if nobody's telling you you're crazy, then you've not got a good business model. Because an entrepreneur thinks with the other side of their brain. One side is a spreadsheet of probabilities and statistics. The other side is passion. And it is much more like passion, the reason we start businesses. Why am I here in Nepal? Why am I here in Nepal? Because it's what I want to do with a deep passion. I want to invest in this country. I want to create jobs. And whatever your chosen passion, you need to let those passions override all those many people that will tell you why you shouldn't do it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in an economic downturn, now is the time to invest in Nepal. In the last 2 months, Dolma has brought into the country, not just pledged or signed, but wired into the country over $20 million in investment in 4 different companies. Most of those are technology companies. If you put that in the context of the foreign direct investment, the total, according to the Minister of Finance, so far this fiscal year is 34 million. So Dolma's responsible for 60% of FDI. Now that sounds great, but I'm not actually saying that to boast about Dolma. It's actually a great shame that the total is so small and that Dolma's share is so large. Nepal, in order to reach its goals of 10% growth of SDG targets, needs billions of dollars in foreign direct investment every year. And that will only happen with the collaboration between reformers like Mr. Hamal in the public sector and, of course, creating great businesses that investors want to invest into. But at Dolma, we are very optimistic, and we're always in awe of the kind of talents like Sastadil, Upaya, Foodmandu, other companies that we have the pleasure to work with. I can also announce tonight, where is Rahul from Upaya? Excellent. I can also announce today that our investment committee has approved another $2 million investment in Upaya, on top of the 1.6 million that has already been received. And they were a winner of this award, one of these awards 2 years ago. So for the winners today, it doesn't automatically mean Dolma will invest in you, but it's a sign of things to come. But ladies and gentlemen, all of these new entrants into the venture capital and private equity market, we're not competitors, not yet anyway. The demand for capital is far bigger. It's billions, really, in Nepal. And I don't mean that just for infrastructure, I mean that for regular companies, tech companies. If Upaya builds out and becomes the revolutionary logistics hub that I know it will become, it's going to need tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And what Nepal needs is scale. It needs collaboration. We co-invest with BO2 infused machines. We co-invest with IME and NIBLA's capital in Sasta Deal. We co-invest with True North Associates and Team Ventures in Foodmandu. That's how the industry is going to get together. Let's share risk and let's get to scale. Because when your companies grow big enough and you want foreign capital, or you may want to merge with a foreign company, unfortunately, they're not going to be interested in a company with $1-2 million of revenue. So we as a country, I say that I'm British, but I feel Nepali, we as a country need to get together with that investment ecosystem and support companies like yourselves. So I'll stop there, and I want to just say one more thing. And Amun mentioned those times of near bankruptcy and he didn't know what to do, and trust me, I've been through them myself with my previous tech startups, which I sold, and indeed with Dolma Impact Fund, when we almost couldn't make it, when we didn't close the fund and I'd spent all my money, and my next shot was to remortgage my house. But you know what? When you're in that situation, there was a friend of mine who is a great entrepreneur in the UK. He now owns Derby County Football Club. And he used to say to me, Tim, leap and the safety net will appear. You just can't see it at the moment. So I want to leave you with that thought. Ladies and gentlemen, leap and the safety net will appear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tim Gocha, OVE, founder and CEO at Dolma Fund Management, for your insightful and inspiring remarks. Absolutely, we all second your thought. Passion and dedication conquers everything. Moving ahead, may I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Ramesh Hamal, Chairman at Seven, for his remarks. Mr. Hamal is the Chairman of Seven. He holds a bachelor degree in electrical engineering and has served for 8 years at Nepal Electricity Authority. He then acquired an MBA degree from the Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, Thailand. Hamal was the president of the Thailand chapter of NRNA from 2007 to 2010. May I now request Mr. Ramesh Hamal to kindly address the ceremony.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Tim for his kind words. In fact, it was all pre-planned. You saw us both moving out of the hall, and we planned all this outside during the coffee. So I'm also going to say a few good words about him. I have to, no choice. Because every time I meet him, and since I came to Sebon, I've been meeting him to understand the real world business, the real world enterprise development, the risk taking, the commercial world. Because if we do not understand the real world realities, how do we bring about the right policies? And that kind of enthusiasm and also a total 360-degree perspective on the international as well as Nepal's the environment for business. And that's where I learn a lot from Tim, that he and I have a lot of brainstorming sessions, a lot of them over the coffee. I remember, I think in this year alone, we've done almost 4 sessions. And this gives me a lot of insights, more than what I already have from my regional and international background of business experience. And that allows us to reframe our policies to bring that conducive business environment and that ease of doing business in Nepal. So today I'm going to talk about these aspects of the enterprise development and the right policy making. Because today's this session, the NewBiz startup session, in fact, we've also started at Sebon creating a new platform for things exactly like this, precisely like this. Because when I came into Sebon about 15 months ago, I did a lot of research about Nepal's economic domain, the FDI inflows, a very minimal, almost negligible level we managed to attract with almost 30 years of exercise, and we've not gone from point A to B. We've in fact remained at point A and point A. We've not made real progress on that side, and I think we must improve on that. So let me tell you about where to begin and how we started the journey. Because if we look back, our 4 decades of banking evolution, of the private sector banking in Nepal, we made a lot of progress. The banks gave us a lot to the Nepalese economy. But I think, as always, a single highway, a single corridor is never enough. So for 4 decades, we remained into one single highway of collateral-based lending and debt service obligations. That is never enough, and that is not a recipe for enterprise development. Because enterprise development is about risk-taking. It takes time to build a company, to build any company. In fact, before I came to the session, I was just trying to rephrase my mind and going back to my management college days and the case studies that we used to do. And even after when I started my first job as a business analyst, the Google and Apple stories, I think we all know about this. I will not go into in-depth, long story about that. But there are a lot of things, a lot of time maybe we don't notice. If you look at, for example, Apple's journey from the garage of Steve Jobs, initially in 1976, there were 3 partners, Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs, and there was a guy called Ronald Wayne, or how do you pronounce it, Tim? So Ronald Wayne. Ronald left the company in 12 days. Because in those days, the banks were not lending money to companies like Apple, because it didn't make a lot of sense to produce computers for general users in those times, 1976. So he thought that this business is already dead. This has no prospect. So he quit the company in just 12 days. He sold his 10% stake. Can you guess at what amount? He sold his 10% in Apple for only $800. Just $800. And there remain just 2 investors, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. They have no money. Jobs sold his Volkswagen. Steve Wozniak sold the old assembled computer to raise money to bring the business about. This is what I'm trying to say, that for enterprise development, the state, like us, the state should take the guardianship. State should create that ecosystem that Tim just talked about. That ecosystem creation is our job. If we create the right ecosystem, a right platform, then obviously there will be intelligent people like you will come and grasp that opportunity and build on that platform. And then you will progress the nation. But unless the guardian takes that first responsibility, the whole thing doesn't come about. Had this man, Ronald, waited another 4 years, that 10% would be several $billion. Just 4 years. because Apple's IPO came in 1980, December. And they raised one of the highest IPO amount ever in the history of the United States at that time. And today, the company is valued, the market cap is almost $2.75 trillion. Just imagine, would that happen with single highway of traditional banking system of collateral-based lending? No, of course not. So and the Google story is very similar, very similar story. If you look back, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, these two youngsters at the Stanford University, they had this algorithm of, search engine algorithm for their thesis, and they saw some business concept there. They saw some business, what we call business monetization of your ideas. But they had no money. They approached several banks, several investors. None of them came about and saw as a realistic proposition. Finally, the Sun Microsystem founder, he invested something like $100,000. The first investment in Google, just $100,000. That $100,000 today is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So the wealth creation happens with the right ecosystem, with the platform, and that is the first and foremost job of any state, the government's job. Government should not do the business, but government should create the environment for business. So what we are doing at Sebon today is we started this private equity and venture capital domain on a very fast-track basis, exactly to create this ecosystem and creating that awareness, because also there was the lack of the knowledge. And people know it, but they don't talk about it. And they don't talk too much positively about it. Because of how it struggles over these, several decades, I think the society has also become a little bit more pessimistic. And I urge everyone to look upwards and be optimistic, because I think time is right that the country is going to progress and progress strongly. So what we are doing to create now the complete ecosystem, because we cannot give you the half of the half-cooked story. So we have to create a complete ecosystem. So we have to make viable the private equity and venture capital domain. We need several components, the jigsaw puzzle that we need to complete the story. We have to attract foreign investments, so we have to make it easier and almost, because there is a global commercial reality, so we need to understand without those, the acceptance of those realities in our country, investment will not come. Because in my discussion, I think Samaji, right? Samaji? So Samaji talked about my experience in Thailand, the international markets. When I was the chair of NRN, I had the opportunity to discuss a lot of politicians, Nepalese politicians and bureaucrats on Nepal's governance and development issues and investment, the horizon and the potential that we have and the challenges that we have. A lot of time I hear the same old stories. We want to be unique. We are unique, Nepal. Of course, when it comes to traditions and our culture, we are unique. But when it comes to commercial world, when it comes to business world, when it comes to financial world, we cannot be unique. We have to remain within the global ecosystem, and we have to be on par, at least on the conduciveness, on the protocols, on the platforms, on the ease, and on the exit mechanisms. Because every investor will worry about the exit. Sometimes we get confused. If we have exit mechanism, a quick exit mechanism, we think that investor will exit. No, of course not. They're just looking for flexibility. So these little nuances, they help. So we need to understand every bit of it. So what we are doing today is to make this private equity and venture capital domain on par with the international protocols. We are bringing about the changes because if we bring the changes at one go, maybe it will not be mature and it will not be long lasting. So we are going step by step. So we will be bringing, as we move on, every week we are going to polish these policies and bring new protocols, new instruments that will help our evolution into going into establishing a true ecosystem for the private equity and venture capital domain. The second part of that is a separate SME platform at the exchange. Because without that, again, exit mechanism, the ecosystem will not be complete. So what we are now doing is, I'm happy to announce that just yesterday, our board of directors have passed the first regulatory framework for the SME platform, a separate index, a separate platform at the Nepal Stock Exchange. The SEBON's board has endorsed the first draft, the first regulation, which is historic. I think this is historic. This will now pave the path for us to go in all the realizing the stories that I told you about, Google, Apple, not on that quantum, but on our national scale. I think we can also now imagine of achieving those kind of realities and wealth creation if we have the right platform. So the SME platform now next week will go to the Ministry of Finance, and then from there it will go to the cabinet for final endorsement. Once the cabinet endorses it, this will become a law, a regulation, not a law, but regulation, part of the law. And then there will be exit mechanism, a proper exit mechanism for the SME platform. So what we are doing is for any company which is below 25 crores, or 250 million rupees of paid up capital, they can now have basically they will benefit from three principal things. One, the ease of the entry into the exchange will be smoother and very smooth. So it will be easy access, first. Second, they will have less regulation, less disclosure, less, like rating requirements, all these things. There will be a lot of relaxations because we need to incentivize these companies to come into public and not rely on the traditional banking system, but raise their growth funds from the public. So that will bring about that change that we need to bring the private equity and venture capital investment from domestically and internationally, more and more internationally. With these protocols, the international money flow will come and will become easier and more wiser, more attractive. Third, we're going to reduce the cost of the entry substantially. Again, to incentivize, because we are imagining even a coffee shop chain of 10 coffee outlets can now think about and imagine being listed and raise the growth funds from the public domain and not putting their business into the collateral-based lending risk platform, because not all startup will survive. That's why we need to make sure that the entry cost, the maintenance cost, operational cost remain in the exchange is minimal, so that the cost of failure is also not too much. Because we should be realistic. Even if we can make 50% of survival rate or success rate, it will be awesome. Because we know that from the empirical studies globally, the company's evolution, enterprise development, any company, any enterprise on the evolution path, if they survive for 5 years, there is a probability of them getting, established and getting stronger and a sustainable enterprise almost by 70% probability. It's very high percentage, almost more than 2/3. But if they survive more than 5 years, there is a chance that they will grow and become very strong organization sustainably, 95% more. And this is what we are trying to do. So I think on these aspects, we're making a lot of significant improvements. We are very serious about it. This is our signature policy, in fact, because I'm really committed to create this another additional highway of our financial system, and especially, and the last but not the least, what I would like to also inform you is that now we are also working on, just behind, we've started the brainstorming sessions. So because we understand the potential of the software industry in Nepal, the tech industry in Nepal, the fintech industry. We understand there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of talent, but we have not been able to leverage it. Because again, without the without the presence of that ecosystem and that incentives and that global commercial reality that we didn't have yet. So we're going to, again, Sebon will take the leadership in this thing, and we'll create another platform, hopefully, very soon. We'll create a new platform that is totally tailor-made for the digital world, Nepalese digital world, Nepalese software, BPO and software industry. So again, we will try to facilitate, the ease of the entry into the market, again, disclosure mechanisms, and again, international investment inflows, make it easier for them, make it easier for them to exit. So with this, hopefully we can make another significant improvement into the now leapfrogging the tech industry. Because what I believe is that if we can do all of these basic components, and the state can hold the hand of the entrepreneurs and really form a collaborative relationship, a friendship, a partnership, that we grow together, we struggle together, and resilience, a friendship of resilience. If we do that, there is no doubt in my mind that by 2030, we can even become a $100 billion economy. We can, and we should aim towards that. So with that good thought, and I say you thank you for listening me for such a long time. I think I've spoken too long, so please excuse me if I have done so. Thank you so much. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh Samal, Chairman at 7, for your remarks. Let us all work and unite together to create a perfect ecosystem which will enhance business climate in Nepal. र आजको हाम्रो यो पहिलो सेसनको करिब हामी अन्त्यतर्फ आइसकेका छौँ। हामी अझै पनि नवनिर्वाचित राजसभाका सांसद डाक्टर स्वर्णिम वाग्लेको पर्खाइमा छौँ। उहाँ आएपछि उहाँको पनि हामी स्पेशल स्पीच सुन्नेछौँ, स्पेशल एड्रेस सुन्नेछौँ। आज संसदमा नीति तथा कार्यक्रम पनि प्रस्तुत भइरहेछ, त्यस कारणले गर्दा पनि उहाँको व्यस्तता त्यतातर्फ भएको कारणले गर्दा अलिकति ढिला भएको पनि म जानकारी गराउन चाहन्छु। आजको हाम्रो अर्को हाइलाइट भनेको न्यू बिजनेस स्टार्टअप समिट एन्ड अवार्ड पनि हो। स्टार्टअपहरूलाई हामी एन्करेज र इन्स्पायर गर्ने उद्देश्य पनि रहेको छ। र म अब विगतका वर्षहरूका कार्यक्रमको झलक हाम्रो प्राविधिक साथीहरूलाई पनि प्रस्तुत गरिदिनुको लागि अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु। दोस्रो सेसनमा जानुभन्दा अगाडि
तपाईहरु जस्ता युवा साथीहरू अमेरिका, अस्ट्रेलिया, न्युजिल्यान्डको सडकहरुमा गल्लीहरुमा नभट्किकन यहाँ केही गरौँ, दुई चार जनालाई भने पनि रोजगारी दिउँ, देशलाई केही कन्ट्रिब्युट गरौँ, आफू पनि केही सिकौँ भनेर जुन लाग्नु भएको छ त्यो हाम्रो लागि धेरै ठुलो उत्प्रेरणा हो।
2008 देखि अहिलेसम्म आउँदाखेरि यु क्यान क्याल्कुलेट सो मेनी इयर्स अफ एक्सपिरियन्स भयो र आफ्नै सबल पार्टनर सुरु गर्दाखेरि पनि त्यो सिकेको कुराले धेरै काम दियो हामीलाई खोजे हैन। मैले त्यही सबल पार्टनर्सलाई 2017 को सट्टा 2007 मा सुरु गरे भए धेरै मिस्टेक गर्थ्यो होला र मैले नेपाली उद्यमी र विदेशी उद्यमी एउटा फरक के देखाएको छु भन्दाखेरि नेपालीहरूले धेरै प्रश्न गर्दैनन् के। नेपाली उद्यमीहरूलाई म के भन्छु भने प्लिज आस्क क्वेशन्स के सबैको लागि टिम चाहिँ बनाउन सक्नुहुन्छ, एक्लैले सबै गर्न सकिँदैन। सो यु क्यान हायर पिपल, सिकाउँ, क्वेसन सोधौँ, मान्छे भेटौँ, कुरा गरौँ भन्ने खालको एटिट्युड भयो भने नि देन तपाईले आफ्नो दिमाग र आफ्नो एन्टरप्रेन्योरियल जर्नीलाई अगाडि बढाउनु भयो के तपाईले। इफ यु क्यानट वर्क अन अ टिम इट्स गोइङ टु बी भेरी डिफिकल्ट।
काम गर्दै जाँदाखेरि त एउटा मिनिमम स्यालेरी त पुग्दैन। सो इन्सेन्टिभहरू दिँदाखेरि चाहिँ कस्तो कस्तो ट्रिकहरू युज गर्दा हुन्छ। प्रब्लम सल्भिङ भने यु आर एडिङ फिचर्स टु समथिङ द्याट इज अलरेडी एक्जिस्टिङ इन द मार्केट। सो त्यो फिचर एडिसनमा चाहिँ हाउ डु यु फिगर आउट हुन्छ नि यो कस्टमर चाहिँ हाम्रो दिस इज द पोसिबल कस्टमर।
कस्टमर भनेको हामीले कसरी डिफाइन गरेका छ भने उसले खल्तीमा हात हालेर अथवा कार्ड
7 जनालाई आज हामी पुरस्कृत गर्नेछौँ र क्याश प्राइज पनि रहेको छ, सर्टिफिकेटहरू पनि रहेको छ र आज जो पुरस्कृत हुन सफल हुनुहुन्छ उहाँहरूको अगाडिको यात्रा त सुन्दर छँदैछ, तर यो 2000+ स्टार्टअपहरू पनि भविष्यमा अझै अगाडि बढ्नुहुनेछ भन्ने हाम्रो शुभकामना र शुभेच्छा पनि छ। र कार्यक्रमलाई अगाडि बढाउनु पूर्व म जुरीहरूको पनि परिचय गराउन चाहन्छु यहाँहरू समक्ष, किनभने उहाँहरूको ठुलो मेहनत रहेको छ निष्पक्ष रूपमा उत्तिकै अब्बल स्टार्टअपहरूलाई छानेर 7मा रिफाइन गरेर ल्याउनु पक्कै पनि चुनौतीपूर्ण कार्य नै थियो। हाम्रो जुरीमा हुनुहुन्थ्यो जुना माथेमा, सी इज अ serial entrepreneur who firmly believes in contributing to the community in both professional and personal capacity. She co-founded an advertising and research agency Blitz in 2002. Her other ventures are Sewa Securities. अर्को उहाँको रहेको छ FocusOne, which provides management consulting service, and Golden Ratio, a company offering digital and multimedia solution. हाम्रो jury member Juna Mathema को लागि ताली पनि बजाइदिनु होला। र अर्को jury member हुनुहुन्छ Tenzin Sonam Gonsar. He is the founder and CEO of Team Venture Private Limited, an alternative investment firm in Nepal. He is a graduate of Columbia University, New York, with specialization in organizational and leadership development, strategic management, and investment fund management. उहाँलाई पनि ताली बजाइदिनु होला। र अर्को जुरी मेम्बर हुनुहुन्छ सुमन शाक्य. He is an entrepreneur, consultant, and certified trainer. Since 1995, he has been involved in multiple entrepreneur ventures and as an adjunct faculty of marketing and strategy. र उहाँ Tenzin Webs का फाउन्डर पनि हुनुहुन्छ। 3 जना हाम्रो जुरी रहनु भएको छ। र आज हामी 7वटा स्टार्टअपलाई पुरस्कृत गर्ने नै छौँ र स्टार्टअपहरूका आइडियाजहरू पनि सुन्नेछौँ। पिचिङका लागि पनि हामीले समय दिएका छौँ र त्यो भन्दा अगाडि म जुरीका तर्फबाट यो प्रोसिजर कस्तो थियो, कुन क्राइटेरियामा उहाँहरूलाई हामी अवार्ड दिन गइरहेका छौँ भनेर आफ्नो अनुभव राखिदिनु हुनका लागि र पारदर्शिता कसरी मेन्टेन गर्नुभयो। धेरैको दिमागमा त्यो प्रश्न पनि आउन सक्छ अवार्ड भन्ने बित्तिकै, हैन? आफूलाई पाउँदा त खुसी लाग्छ, अरूले पाउँदा प्रश्न गर्ने हाम्रो बानी नै छ। त्यो कसरी इभ्यालुएट गर्नुभयो, इभ्यालुएसनका प्यारामिटर्सहरू के थियो, त्यस विषयमा जानकारी गराइदिनु हुनका लागि म जुरीका तर्फबाट सुमन शाक्यज्यूलाई पनि अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु। कृपया अगाडि आइदिनु होला।
Good evening, Subha Sandhya. As a jury member, my work was made very easy because we had an amazing team in Juna Mathema and Tenzin Sonam. So a big round of applause to them as well. Today we heard some wonderful discussions and even announcements. And as a jury member, our role was very good, very positive, because we had to evaluate and look into companies who were not just going from point A to point A, as Hamalji put it, but were going from point A, not just to B to C, D, E, and so much more. So there was a lot of positivity there. And as Tim also said, these are people who have leapt and they have found their own safety net as well. As a member of the jury team, हामी निर्णायक टोलीमा भएकोमा हाम्रो काम सजिलो के भएको थियो भने पहिलाको संस्करणमा जुन चाहिँ मापदण्डहरू बनाएको थियो त्यसैलाई नै हेरेर हामीले परिमार्जन गर्यौं र जति पनि एन्ट्रीज आएको थियो भनेर आयोजक साथीहरूले भन्नुभएको छ त्यसैलाई हामीले हेरेर के चाहिँ गर्न खोज्यौं भने अहिलेको जुन चाहिँ मन्त्रालयमा भएको स्टार्टअपको परिभाषा, we have looked into the current definition that is with the Ministry of Industry, with the government, which will possibly be public soon. and also take into consideration the limitation that or the conditions that the organizers had put. So त्यसलाई हामीले हेरेर जुन चाहिँ दायरा थियो, जुन चाहिँ मापदण्ड थियो, त्यसलाई हेरेर हामीले पहिला गरेको ब्याकग्राउन्डलाई पनि हेरेर हामीले पृष्ठभूमि हेरिकन हामीले काम गर्यौं र हामीले गरेकोमा चाहिँ सबभन्दा बढी जोड केमा दियो भने are the entrepreneurs solving a big problem? यदि समस्या छ कि छैन र त्यो समस्यालाई समाधान कसरी गरिरहेछ हैन उहाँहरुले सोलुसन्सहरु कसरी दिनु भइरहेछ हामीले त्यसलाई हेर्यौं र जुन चाहिँ बजार छ मार्केट छ त्यसको ग्याप अन्तर कति छ त त्यसमा भरेर पनि हेर्यौं र सबभन्दा धेरै हेरेको चाहिँ हामीले जुन चाहिँ पेन पोइन्ट्सहरु छ जुन चाहिँ अप्ठ्यारा स्थितिहरु या जति पनि दुखाइका बिन्दुहरु हामी भन्ने गर्छौं त्यसलाई हेरिकन कति किसिमले कम्पनीलाई अगाडि बढाएको छ भन्ने पनि हेर्यौं र सबभन्दा गाह्रो र इन्भेस्टरले पनि हेर्ने भनेको ट्र्याक्सन नेपालीमा हामीले भन्दाखेरि कर्सन भनेर भन्दै रहेछौं त्यो कर्सनलाई पनि कसरी हेरिरहेछौं भनेर पनि हामीले त्यसलाई पनि मापन गर्यौं र त्यो सँगसँगै कम्पनी कतिको स्थिर छ त हैन हाउ सस्टेनेबल इज द कम्पनी भन्ने पनि हामीले हेर्यौं त्यो सँगसँगै हामीले पछिल्लो लिस्ट जब आयो घट्दै घट्दै कममा आयो त्यसमा हामीले हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ कम्पनीको ट्रान्सपरेन्सी पारदर्शिता कस्तो छ र गभर्नेन्स सुशासनमा कतिको ध्यान दिएको छ भनेर हामीले त्यसमा हेर्यौं त्यो सुशासनको हेर्दाखेरि ढाँचा फ्रेमवर्क र स्ट्रक्चर संरचना कस्तो छ भने र कम्प्लायन्स अनुपालन पनि उहाँले गर्नु भएको छ कि छैन भनेर हामीले हेर्यौं र त्यो सँगसँगै उहाँहरुको अनुभव एक्सपिरियन्स र सिकाइ अन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ एन्ड द ग्रोथ वृद्धि दरलाई पनि हामीले त्यसमा हेरेर हामीले अगाडि बढाएका छौं र आयोजकहरुलाई हामीले एउटा लिस्ट अगाडि दिएको छौं त्यो लिस्ट दिएकोमा अघि तपाईले हेर्नुभयो उहाँहरुले प्रेजेन्टेसन पनि गरेको छ जति जनालाई बोलाएको थियो र उहाँहरुलाई प्रेजेन्टेसन गर्दाखेरि हामीले लुकबुकको एउटा क्यानभसमा तपाईले कसरी आफ्नो भनाइलाई राख्न सक्नुहुन्छ भनेर पनि हामीले राख्यौं त्यो राखेर हामीले लिस्ट अगाडि आयोजकहरुलाई दिएको छौं र त्यो दिँदै समय हामीलाई यो काम गर्नमा मौका दिनु भएकोमा धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद र स्टार्टअपमा जति पनि आउनु भएको थियो उहाँहरुलाई धेरै धेरै शुभकामना थ्यांक यू भेरी मच
धन्यवाद सुमन साक्यज्यू उहाँले जुरीका तर्फबाट आफ्नो प्रतिक्रिया दिएर जानुभयो यो जुरीमा रहँदा प्रोसेस के थियो इभ्यालुएसनको त्यसबारेमा प्रकाश पारेर जानुभयो र अलिकति जुरी प्रोसेसको झलक छ हामी तपाईहरुलाई त्यो देखाउँछौं त्यसपछि अरु कार्यक्रममा अगाडि बढ्नेछौं
NewBiz Startup Summit and Awards 2023. Nomination from 7 provinces. Connecting with 2,000 plus startup participants. Awards categories more than 4. Powered by sostwadeal.com. Banking partner, Lakshmi Bank. General Insurance partner, Shikhar Insurance. Technology partner, Rigo Technologies. Remittance partner, City Express Money Transfer. Driven by Nexon EV Max. Community partner, Nepali Patro. Internet partner, Dish Home FiberNet. Supported by National Life Insurance, Nepal Rashtra Bank, Citizen Life Insurance, FNCCI, Nepal Insurance Authority, Alpha Plus Ventures. Organized by New Business Age.